Good afternoon. It is Saturday, October 25th. I am Bruce Leonard, and this is Bruce Leonard Leans Left. While it's still legal. Still legal today, I believe. But as you know, it's a fluid situation at all times. Could be not legal at any moment. As usual, it's sad. Well, not as usual because he's been gone for a while. But on Saturdays, sometimes we have my friend, host of History on Fire podcast, the history professor, Daniele Bolelli is with us today. How you doing, my friend? Good. It's good to see you. How have you been? You know, for some reason, I have that talent. That's how we became friends. Right? Right?
Yeah,
Without a doubt. So that's it. How have you been?
all good, all good. This is cool. I got some news that this Italian publishing company is gonna publish this historical fiction that I wrote. So that takes care of Italy, which is nice. Now I'm gonna work on making sure that I can get that done in US as well. So I'm trying to make that happen. But even just Italy alone, that was a great start.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's great. Is this that thing that you were saying that you wanted to turn into a television series?
Yeah. I mean, and I've been at it. This is the problem with so much work that being stupidly relentless helps a lot because most of the stuff that ever works out for me almost never works out on the first try or the second or the third or the fourth. It's like try number 167 is usually when things start clicking. So you need to be insanely patient, deal with ton of doors slammed in your face, and long past the time when any reasonable person would have given up. Sometime is where I see something working out.
Well,
And
welcome to show business, my friend.
yeah, right, that's how it works.
Because that's how it works. I've been
Totally, but it's
slamming my head against that door my whole entire life. Like, huh.
yep. No, it's how it is. And it reminds me of I wrote something about it recently. It reminds me of, remember that basketball player Dennis Rodman?
Yes.
You know, Rodman had this thing. He won the title for best rebounder a bunch of times.
Hmm.
But when you look at Rodman, I mean, don't get me wrong, he was a big dude, but he was considerably smaller than most of the guys who contended for the top spot as the best rebounder in the NBA.
Right.
And so it was like, how the hell? And one of his thing was like, beside obviously having good instincts for where the ball is gonna go and everything, he said, most of the time, I don't jump once for a rebound. I jump once just to barely touch the ball with my finger and tip it. And then I hit the ground and I jump again and I tip it and I tip it. And I'll jump two, three, four times, whereas most guys going against me will jump once, maybe will jump a second time. By the third one, they're like, this is not worth it. I'll save my energy for the next play. And so his whole thing was just to outwork the other guy,
That's
to
what I was getting ready
just
to say. Relentlessness.
yeah, which of course is not, in an ideal world, you wouldn't have to do all this bullshit and things could actually work out because somebody see what you do and go like, oh, this is great. But, most of the time that's not how it is. So just this, yeah, I mean, I see really like this book. I think I finished it, I don't even remember, 2, 3 years ago. I've been sitting on it for a while and I'm like, man, nothing is clicking. What the hell? Why this, that? And now finally the first door cracked open and is currently at the best state it has been, even in terms of English, in having some publisher being very interested. So hopefully it clicks there as well at the same time. That would be nice. But yeah, that's where I'm at. So that's kind of what I'm excited about.
That's cool. That's awesome, man. I think that once you you get something going, you'll get someone here that'll pick it up probably, and then once it's out, then
Yeah,
it'll be easier for you to try to sell it as a TV.
totally, totally. And I think is a lot of publishers tend to be gun shy just because people read less already, so there's a smaller clientele. The people who read fiction, and it's in particular historical fiction, are overwhelmingly women, like to a 80-20 ratio. Like the majority of men, A, don't read, B, don't read fiction. So if you write fiction, they tend to want it from a woman who's writing about women.
Right.
And if it's from a man and is not, a straight up women's story, it tends to be way harder to sell.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never tried to sell a book. Um, I
If,
don't
if
see.
it's non-fiction, it's different. Non-fiction, there are other spaces, but fiction, yeah, overwhelmingly women genre, with exceptions, of course. But for publishers, they are not banking on the exception. They want like, what's the most likely thing that's going to get me a return on my investment,
Sure.
and so that's usually. And I was talking to some agent, and I was like, "Come on, that's not true." And I listed a whole series of books that didn't fit that pattern, and they were like, "Yeah, those are all great books. You know that the most recent one you mentioned is at least 15 years old, right?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so things have changed, and they were like, "Yeah, they have."
I think even guys like Patterson, people who have sold lots of
Yeah,
books, like he's doing different kinds of things now. He's writing books with other people. He's
yeah.
he's his stories have kind of changed. Like you said, they're like, oh, that stuff that you was writing before is not really working. So
Yeah. Also, crime, you can still kind of get away with it. Historical fiction has become overwhelmingly female driven, which again, nothing wrong because has been the opposite for so long, but I think it's a bit too hard of a switch where there's just not even much of a space for anything outside of that. That's why, like books, even like the TV series Shogun that they made not so long ago, books like that would be very difficult to publish today.
I was getting ready
Um,
to bring that up. It's like you would
yeah,
think that that would help.
I work for TV. I mean, I still think there's an audience. It's just the problem is most men don't read anymore, and definitely don't read fiction. So that's becomes the problem. That then the audience. I mean, in fact, when this agent told me, and I was like, "Oh, that's not true." I went on Amazon looking at historical fiction, and I look at like the first 20 covers,
Hmm.
and like 17 featured a woman in a skirt in some historical setting, and I was like, oh,
Or like
okay.
Harlequin romances,
Pretty much. Pretty like, okay, I understand
I
what you're saying.
remember when I was a kid, my mom used to work at Walden Books,
Uh-huh.
and she would bring home the books. Like when they get rid of the books, they don't have to send the books back. They tear the
Yeah,
covers off. So she
yeah.
would bring boxes and boxes of these books with covers off of them, and like, well, just go through them and you pick whatever you want. And
Totally.
there was one I never forget it. There was one called "The Sword of the Golden Stud," and it was about this
I can
guy
imagine.
this guy who was an escaped slave,
Yes.
but he was half. He was
Yeah.
mixed, so
Yeah.
looked white. He could pass for white, but
Yeah.
if he took his shirt off, he had all these whip marks on his back.
Of
So,
course.
and then of course, yeah, he's fucking all these women.
Of course. Yeah, that stuff never goes out of style. Like, and that's kind of what a lot of historical fiction has become. It's become a lot of like romance novel meets history. That is kind of the direction where it has gone.
Right. So, tell us a little about it. What is it?
So what I did was, way back in the day, I did a couple of episodes about the life of Caravaggio, the Italian painter, who had a crazy life because, as I said at some point, when somebody was like, "An Italian painter, what's the big deal?" I'm like, "No, no, think like Tupac, and Tupac being a painter in the 1600s Italy. That's Caravaggio. He's like a wild. He killed a guy in a duel, was wanted for murder, escaped from jail, would be rubbing elbows with the Pope, but then like giving a giant middle finger to the church. He had all these highly tumultuous life, and in the midst of it all, being just this badass painter. So what I did was, when I did History on Fire, I did straight up history. That's what I do so I don't make anything up. I just go to the sources. I present the history as it shows up in the sources. But then I like the story in a way where I was like, I'm intrigued by all the parts where history is silent about his life. Like, we know that he had a huge issues with the church and he had huge issues with the wealthy and powerful, but why? And so I kind of give him a whole backstory that, of course, sources are silent about.
Right.
And then so by that point, of course, because it's historical fiction and not history, becomes my Caravaggio, becomes something else. It's like you start from a historical thing, but then it becomes, and I've had a blast because it's a story that I'm particularly attached to, I think, because Caravaggio became the poster boy for the tortured artist archetype. And I think it's that sad archetype, this idea that, anybody who's sensitive is condemned to a lifetime of pain and suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So what I wanted was to tweak that archetype a little, to say, yes, of course, if you are super sensitive in this world, you are going to run into a lot of suffering. But it's not at that sentence. It's not something that there are ways to work through PTSD. There are ways to work through trauma. There are ways to defeat your demons,
Sure.
And that's kind of part of the storyline of like, it's a really heavy story, but with an arc that doesn't make you want to shoot yourself by the time you're done.
Right.
Because the real Caravaggio story can be depressing, for sure. It's wild, it's intense, it's passionate, but it's pretty depressing. I stay faithful to it 60%, and I tweak enough of it to give it a different spin.
That's cool. I think a lot of people probably don't know who that is.
Yeah, no, Caravaggio is the guy, huge influence even on cinema. Like Scorsese was saying that all of his stuff is based on Caravaggio visuals. The huge influence. He was the guy who did the whole chiaroscuro, which is that technique of using light and darkness to make the subject come out in these huge ways. And when you look at his paintings, like I'm like good paintings, but I'm not crazy about painting as a medium. When you look at Caravaggio's paintings, most of the time your jaw drops and you're like, holy shit, this is amazing.
Right.
This is powerful. This is pretty violent. He lived a violent life. He was used to a lot of street violence in late 1500s, early 1600s Italy, and it shows up in his paintings. And but yeah, man, it's like they are pretty much unlike anybody else.
Yeah, I was going to say, because when you hear lists of like classical painters, like
Yeah.
he's not on it a lot of times, And I
Yeah,
mean,
which is
not that he shouldn't be, he should be, but
which is nuts because when you look at his stuff, it's just it's so insanely good.
it sounds like like a lot of times when you talk to like musicians, they'll say,
Yeah,
"Oh, we were influenced by these bands," and the bands
sure.
that they mention are usually
Yeah,
not big giant blockbuster bands. They're
right.
bands that were doing something that was different, and
I mean, he was definitely on the different side, but still, it's not like, I mean, still today there are, Caravaggio exhibit that draws hundreds of thousands of people, so yeah, it's not the name that you're going to throw out there at a cocktail party and everyone knows what you're talking about, but it's not like hidden either, it's like it's big enough that there's definitely attention there. But I agree, it's not necessarily the number one name that comes up, but he definitely has the number one life out of any painter I've ever heard of. His life is, is really wild.
well, what's his name? Van Gogh. He's pretty wild.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. One
That's a
is
pretty crazy story.
yeah, yeah. for sure, for sure.
It's
Yeah, I
funny
think
that.
what's
Oh,
interesting
go ahead.
about Caravaggio is that he's so like he was clearly involved in. That's why I compare it to Tupac stuff because the he hung out with these crews of painters, artists, sculptors. They were both artistic groups, but they were also slightly on the meddling with a bit of the crime scene in Rome and meddling with the criminal underworld and having one foot in the palaces of the wealthy, but one foot in some poor tavern and knifing each other over some insult or business, shady businesses and things. So it kind of reminds me a lot of the hip hop crews from the rougher parts of like the 90s, early 2000, that kind of stuff.
Tupac was always a fascinating character because
Oh yeah,
there's lots of contradictions in him. Like he would say all these things that were intelligent observations of the culture that he lived in, but then he couldn't separate himself from that. You know what I mean? Like it's like oh, he knows that it's bad, but
yeah,
yet he can't get away from it. You know what I mean? Like, and then it wound up being the death of him.
yeah. That's exactly what always frustrated me about him. That he's like he's so damn smart, so damn smart, sensitive, smart, with a whole different outlook. And he's like, you're so damn smart. Why can't you step away? Why can't you just grab your guys, take them to live in an island next to Fiji or something, be away from the whole scene that's killing everyone involved, whether from drugs or violence or something? Walk away, And you're right, and he never did, and it ended up the way it ended up.
I think it's part of the thing where as an artist you think to yourself, well, if I separate myself from this, it's
Hmm.
going to take a part of my artisticness away. That
For sure.
it's the same as people that believe that they need drugs to make
Sure.
great art.
Yeah.
And then they get sucked into it so hard,
Yeah.
like Weiland, for example. Like it starts as, oh, I'll do this heroin, it'll make me write great songs. And then
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
you know it, you're a heroin junkie and you can't get away from it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
so it becomes your own demise.
Exactly. And that's what I mean by giving it a different spin, because that's a sad story. That's a sad story, to look at somebody who's so talented, so smart, and then get trapped in this bullshit is like, come on, man. There has to be a better way. There has to be. And so that's why I kind of like to tweak with those stories, that they are powerful stories, but they are depressing story by the time you're done with it. And I don't want them to be, I want them to be rough. I want it to be intense. I want it to be like to real life, but also not end in this way that makes you go like, it's all bound to go to shit anyway. It's all, you can never get out. Doesn't matter how smart you are. You're always bound to these chains and you'll never. That's the part I don't like, and where I think fiction can come in. And it's part of the reason why I don't like, for example, even though I enjoyed watching Game of Thrones, I don't like J.R.R. Martin in a way, because his thing is like a reality exactly as is with no tweaks. Well, minus the dragons and the zombies and stuff, but he's like he has this extremely, I don't even know if he's cynical, but very realistic slash dark view of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I get it. You don't want it to be oh, the good guys were perfectly good and all the bad guys were terribly bad, but also, if I want reality, I'll look out the window. I want something that inspire me. I want something that make me feel good about life in the end, not something that makes me go, wow, the whole world is really fucked up. Okay, let's go shoot some heroin now. It's like, that's
Yes.
not the goal of fiction in my book.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like an escape.
Yeah, it needs to show me what's possible. Even if you have a hard time finding it in reality, at least something that makes me feel like, you know what? There is a way out of all this shit. There is a way out from trauma. There is a way out from. That's important to me.
Well, that's why personally I mean, maybe it's because I grew up reading it, but I
Yeah,
believe Lord of the Rings to be superior
me
to
too.
Game of Thrones for that
Me too.
reason.
Hmm.
Like, he even managed to make like Gollum into a sympathetic figure. You know,
Yep.
where like, oh, he's an evil enemy in the
Yep.
story, but you see like, oh,
Yeah.
how he got there, and
Absolutely.
it's actually sad. You know, like,
It is. It is. No, I agree with you. I think, don't get me wrong, Game of Thrones has some great things in there, great dialogues, great characters. But at the end of the day, the worldview is shit. It's a sad, terrible worldview that just makes me not feel very good about being alive. And Lord of the Rings, you can say, oh, it's fantasies, whatever. It's like, yeah, that's the whole point of fantasy. Make me feel like something else is possible. Make me feel that something good can happen. Make me feel that there are decent people in the world. That's important to me.
well, it's like, but that's part of Lord of the Ring, where
Mhm.
he's like the goodness of the world is in the simple things,
Yep,
you know,
exactly. And I love
and
that.
people enjoying life on a basic level, you know, like,
Whereas G.R.R. Martin is like some crazed pedophile who's gonna murder everybody and get away with it before he gets smashed, because eventually everyone gets smashed in the end by the hands of chaos. But it's all terrible and horrible, and
right.
everybody dies a miserable death. And you're like, I'm so glad I feel that. It's like, what the fuck? No, I don't want to feel that energy. It's like,
Although you must see the modern parallel.
yeah, yeah, I do, but that's exactly the point. Is like I already see it. Make
Right,
me feel something different. Make
right,
me feel, show me a sense of hope when there isn't any.
yeah,
Show me, and it doesn't mean you have to do all like happy-go-lucky story. They can be intense, they can be rough, but give me the sense that it's worth being alive. Otherwise, it becomes this masturbatory, just it's all gloom and doom anyway. And it's like, okay, well, that doesn't make me feel very good about anything. Doesn't inspire me, doesn't make me deal with my problems better, doesn't, any of that.
right. I haven't asked you your opinion on what's going on in New York City. Like, what do you think about this Mom Donnie situation?
I mean, I haven't looked at it enough to have a perfect, good read on the thing. My understanding is that it's another scenario where you have like somebody more lefty stepping up that Democratic Party establishment doesn't like seeing stepping up. And it's the classic clash between the one who's actually more on the left and the DNC establishment. That's my read on it, but it may be entirely wrong.
No, you're pretty right. They didn't endorse him till just a couple days ago.
Right,
You know, like
right, right,
the
right.
Hakeem Jeffries and people like that. And then you got the Cuomo, who's
Yeah,
represents, you know, establishment Democrats, who's like,
yeah,
oh, you're
of course.
and then he goes to, you know, the Islamophobia card there at the very end out of desperation. You know, like
Of
it's
course.
so predictable.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, it's like, uh, oh, he can't do these things. You know, like, there was a debate. I don't know if you saw any of it, but there was a part of it where Cuomo was talking about, oh, you can't give people all this stuff and blah blah blah, and he was like, you know, free busing would cost like $4 million or something, or $4 billion or something,
No,
and like you gave Elon Musk $9 billion. You just gave it to him. You know what I mean? Like,
give me a
so
second. Sorry. It looks like there's a dog that's lost. Give me just 1 second.
yeah.
I'll be right back.
Anyway, if you're just tuning in, this is Daniele Bolelli. He's the host of History on Fire podcast. He's a history professor. I'm lucky enough to be able to call him my friend. There's his daughter. Hello. Would you like to plug your music?
Sure. I was going to see if we have a dog out in
He said
the
he
yard.
thought there was a lost dog. He went to look for it.
I mean, there's just a dog on the yard, so I'm assuming it's lost. So we got to figure out if it was a collar or not. But Yeah, music. I
Yes,
do music.
yes.
Crazy.
Tell us your name.
My name's Isabella.
Isabella Bolelli, right?
Isabella Bolelli. It's a
Yes.
long name.
So do you have a YouTube channel or somewhere where people can go listen to your music?
I do. I have a YouTube channel, an Instagram, and a TikTok, most of which is fairly new, but it's if you just look up my full name, Isabella Han hyphen Bolelli, or just on Instagram and TikTok, Isabella underscore is like IZ music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those things are possibilities. I'm currently, yeah, sorry, I'm like very frazzled because of the dog. But yeah, I just want to make sure the dog's okay. But yeah.
It's interesting. I've known your father for a long time, and so therefore I know you like secondarily through pictures and posts and things. And I've listened to your music as well. This is the first time we've spoken.
Yeah, well, nice to meet. What's your name?
I am Bruce Leonard.
Bruce Leonard?
Yes,
Nice to
ma'am.
meet you,
It's very
Bruce
nice to meet you. Your dad was telling me that you met with Randy Jackson about your music.
Leonard. We're currently in the process of like looking over the contract that he sent over for a distribution deal
Mm-hmm.
because basically the gist is in January I'm going to release some of my original music like actually out because it's been done for some months now, but now finally I actually get to put it out, which I'm very excited about because it's just it bugs me not to put it out yet, but I know nothing about social media and marketing and those things, so that's why I've been needing to wait a little bit. But yeah, it's going to be coming in January and probably through Randy Jackson.
I'm very excited about that. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad because I've been watching. I said I've known your dad for a long time now, and I've seen you coming up from the very beginning. I mean, by following, like I said, his posts and things, and I saw you mostly singing like covers of other songs. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I was always wondering like if you were writing your own music because I was
Yeah.
a musician before I did comedy, so I understand. Yes, and I'm
Kind of stuff.
currently in a band again.
What do you play?
And the same thing is like we're sitting on music. It's like, oh, what are you gonna do with this music? I don't think people understand how much work really goes into it. They don't see,
They never do.
that part of it.
They very much don't. They're like, "Oh, that's so cool. Are you gonna have another song by next week?" I'm like, "You want another song fully written and rewritten and rewritten and recorded and arranged
Yes.
by next week? What's wrong with you?" Yeah,
Well, because everybody is into instant gratification these
yeah.
days.
Is the
Like I
dog
said,
okay?
they don't understand
Off,
all the behind
unfortunately.
the scenes stuff.
Sorry, I put back came back in.
Yeah, sorry about that. There was a dog that came to the door, and I was
Said hi.
clearly lost. I
Ran
tried to
away.
get, yeah, I didn't want to let me get close to him. Even, wag his tail and run away.
Do we have treats?
Somebody else is trying to do exactly that. So they're gonna go, but he's really not letting me get anywhere close.
Yeah. Can I have some treats just to go outside
Yeah,
and
I don't
see?
know where they are. Look to see.
Does he have a
If
collar on?
he did, but again, I couldn't get close enough to even catch and look at the number or anything like that.
So it is someone's dog, not just like
It's definitely someone's dog, and it's definitely lost because came to the door kind of confused, like this is my thing. But yeah, that sucks.
Treats.
Yeah, I don't know where they are.
Sorry for interrupting
Yes,
your thinking.
you see them.
No, I don't know where the treats are. I know where the food is. No.
so we got dog,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
emergency.
I better head out to go
Yeah,
to or take care of the dog rescue. But
it's totally fine. You don't have to apologize for being a good human being, my friend.
thanks for chatting.
That's why I love you and you're my friend.
Big
Have a
hugs.
great
Thanks
one.
for
Have a
coming
great
by.
one.
Hey, it was great to talk to you, Iz.
It was great meeting you.
All right.
Bye, Bruce.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Daniele Bolelli, everybody. As you can see, he's a good man. And his daughter, like I said, is a budding musician. You will hear from her, I'm sure. She's about to sign, like I said, a distribution deal with Randy Jackson. Um, I know it's hard to understand when you see me doing this, like, because I'm in this fucking basement, but like, I am. I have done things in my life. I do know people. I'm here because of circumstance. If you don't, I mean, I'm not going to get into the whole story, but like, I was a touring comedian and I had to stop, but I have done lots of things in my life. I've not always been doing this podcast in the basement. As a matter of fact, for a long time, I resisted doing a podcast at all because it's a cliche thing that everyone does now. And I'm sorry, Black Hamburger. I see you there. I just, when I talk to Daniele, I try not to get distracted by the comment thread. But now that he's gone, I will respond to any comments or anybody that wants to speak to me. That's fine. What else was I going to talk about today? We got off track. Daniele's been trying to sell this book for a long time, and he has plans to make it into a TV show at some point, or a TV series like on Netflix or something like American Primeval, where it's like historical fiction. And I wasn't quite sure where he was at with the whole process, but I guess, like I said, apparently he had already written the book a couple years ago and was sitting on it. And that's why I keep telling him, I hope that you can sell this to television so I can get a small part and I can finally be like, look, I've done something real that's on television. What are you? Oh, I'm just the guy that brings the ale to somebody. But it doesn't matter. I'm only on screen for 10 seconds. But that's all right. I'm in it. Got me a TV credit. But I don't know. And Danielle was talking about how dark the world is. Yeah, it's pretty dark. It's like it's hard to get away from all that's going on. I don't know if you saw that the I don't know what you call him, the governor of Ontario, like, put out this ad where Ronald Reagan trashes tariffs, which is a real speech, by the way. And Trump immediately got triggered, and which I'm certain that he already knew that that's what was going to happen, because Trump is like the easiest person to tweak. Like, all you got to do is criticize him a little bit, or point out that his ideas are stupid as fuck, and other people believe so as well, and then you'll end up on the enemies list. Anyway, so he puts this ad out. With Ronald Reagan, with the speech by Ronald Reagan, where he talks about how tariffs are fucking stupid and are bad, and bad for everybody. They're not good for the economy. They're not good for relations with other countries. They're not good. They're not good at all. There's why Donald Trump got this idea that tariffs were good. I don't know. Like, where he got it, but it's not like something new. He's been talking about it for years and years and years and years and years, like way before he was in politics. He was like, if we only did tariffs, we would be and you see where that has worked out. But anyway, so he puts the ad out with Ronald Reagan talking trash and tariffs, and Trump immediately is like, I stop all negotiations with Canada. This is egregious behavior. And then he resorted to his usual thing, which is to try to call it fake, which I've warned on this show is coming for a long time. The AI deepfake is like double-sided. Like, okay, you can AI deepfake something, and yes, it looks real. But the AI deepfake also gives people like Trump the ability to take things that are real and attempt to tell you that that's not real because it's AI deepfake, and that's what he tried to say. It was like, oh, that commercial's fake. They cheated out of it. It's like, no, there's a video of the entire speech. It's not fake. Which goes back to my original premise. You can never believe anything Donald Trump says because he lies constantly about everything. There's not one thing in the world that he doesn't lie about. He exists in a vat of lies and complete bullshit and deluded fantasies about what he thinks the world is. It's like the Portland burning down thing. Portland's burning down, he says. It's like, and then they go, now live to Portland. And it's like people going to the Portland Trailblazers game. You know, like. Speaking of that, have you seen this NBA story? Holy shit. It's unbelievable. It's like a fucking movie. If you don't know the story, I can't run down the entire list of people who got arrested because I can't. Terry Rozier got arrested, a player, but it was for a separate thing where they were like using inside information to bet on games, injury reports and things like that people wouldn't get publicly. But the part with Chauncey Billups. I don't know if you know who Chauncey Billups is, but he's a Hall of Fame basketball player who won, I think, 2 titles with the Detroit Pistons, and now he's a coach of the Portland Trailblazers, believe it or coincidentally enough. And he got arrested because he was involved in a scheme with the mafia to have these illegal poker games where what they would do is they would take people like Chauncey Billups and like retired basketball players, and they would put them in these games, and that's how they would sell the games. They would say, "Hey, you want to come play at our illegal poker game? You can play with, Dennis Rodman," or I'm just using him as a name, but he's not involved in it, I don't think. But I'm saying like Chauncey Billups. I say just say Chauncey Billups. You can play poker with Chauncey Billups, and people go, "What? Really? Fuck yeah, I'm in." And then what happened was they would go to these games. Where at the games they would have like the table has like an X-ray camera underneath of it. So the camera can see through the table and see the cards on the table. They would mark cards, right? And then have special contact lenses that these guys would wear, and they could see the marks on the cards, where you couldn't see the marks on the cards because if you don't have the contacts, it's invisible ink. This is like now you see me, now you don't fucking levels of ridiculous, technological cheating. They had shuffling machines that would tell them what order the cards were in, and then someone somewhere else would get that information somehow. I guess they're connected to the machine, and then they could see which cards were being dealt to which people, and then they would call someone on a cell phone or something and relay that information. This is like high-tech movie type shit, and they're swindling people out of millions of dollars. And you're going, why would a guy do that? Chauncey Billups has made millions and millions and millions of dollars in his basketball career, and now he's a coach for the NBA, which means he's making more millions of dollars as a coach. So why is he involved in this scheme to rip people off? And it goes back to my original premise that I've stated many times on this show, is that human beings are shitbags. They're not good. People are generally evil pieces of shit. And it doesn't matter how much money they have. Like I said, he has money. Well, why is he doing this? Because he can't fight the earth. Either that or the mob had something on him and blackmailed him into participating into this shit somehow, and all of that hasn't come out yet because all that's really out of the indictments and people have gotten arrested. I guess these things will come out at the trial, or if Chauncey Billups decides to turn, informant and go against these mafia guys. But if the mafia is involved in this, like I said, it really makes the whole NBA look like, can you trust what you're seeing? People always say when they're watching sports, like, this is rigged, and, like the NFL too, they say, it's rigged, and you go, can they rig it? I don't know, but then sometimes you watch it and you go, they make some calls, and you're like, I don't know about this call, and it seems that maybe it is rigged, it's like, Well, that definitely lends credence to the idea that it could be rigged. Because, like I said, Rozier and them were using inside information like injury. Like, sometimes a player is injured and they try to keep it a secret because they don't want anybody to know that the guy's injured. But this guy would say, hey, this guy's definitely injured. Like he's not on the injury report, but he's got a calf strain or something, so he's not going to be playing, as hard as I heard something that said he had the inside information on LeBron James, if LeBron James was injured or not. So they would use that to make bets. And that's another thing. It's like, this guy's an NBA player. He's making millions and millions of dollars. Why is he risking all that for betting on games, which means he's betting on NBA games? He's probably going to get banned for life, which means he's going to lose his opportunity to make more millions of dollars playing basketball. All because that's gambling is like a drug. Thankfully, I never did it. I tell this story all the time, and this is absolutely true. When I was like 10 years old, maybe, we went to the horse track, and they gave me $10. And they said, here's $10. Bet it on these horses. And so I was like, oh, and I bet it on the horses, and I lost the $10. And it made me feel so bad. Because when you're 10 years old, especially back then, it's like the early 80s, like $10 was a lot of money. You start thinking, oh, I could have bought a G.I. Joe's, or I could have got some Legos, or I could have done all these things with the $10. Instead, I just gave it away. These fucking stupid horses. I was like, I'll never gamble again. And I never did. I encourage people to, if you want to keep your kids out of gambling, I said that's a good way to do it. But on the other flip of the coin, that's what I told my mom, was like, because you did that when I was 10, I never gambled. But if I would have won, oh, you get hooked on it. Like, that's probably what happens to these people. They're like, I put $10 on the horses. I won $100. And, that dopamine fucking kicks in. And you're like, oh, my God. And then now you're a gambler, a chronic gambler for the rest of your life. It's just like cocaine or anything else. You do cocaine the first time. It makes you feel so good. And then the rest of the time that you do it, you're just trying to get that feeling that you got in the very beginning, but you're never going to get that feeling. That's the lie of it all. You never get that feeling back. That dopamine rush that you get the first time you do something. It's like it's never the same, but you're chasing. They call that term chasing the dragon. Like you're chasing that thing that you the first time you did it, you're like, oh, this is amazing, but it's never really that amazing again, and then in the end it turns into, like I said, sitting in a bathroom with some other cokehead talking about how you're going to fix the world's problems as soon as you stop doing coke in this bathroom. What, Questel? You just woke up? We've been here for a while. So Daniele was here talking about the book that he just sold to a publisher in Italy. Hopefully he'll be able to take that and sell it here in America, and then, like I said, achieve his dream of turning it into a television series, and then I can achieve my dream of getting a bit part. I went on at 6 o'clock. So don't tell me you have 6 o'clock alarms. I was early. I was, yes. It's almost 7. I've been on since 6 o'clock. I've been on for 45 minutes. I think your alarms are off. Yes, time paradox. Anyway. I don't know if you saw this, but they moved an aircraft strike carrier. They're moving them down to the Caribbean. Look, we're going to attack Venezuela pretty soon. Donald Trump is going to, I don't know if that'll start a war, but he's definitely playing with fire here. And again, I can't figure out, I mean, there's not huge reserves of oil and natural gas in Venezuela, and either that's what he's after, or, like I said, somewhere down the line, Venezuela slighted Donald Trump somehow by not letting him build one of his shitty hotels in one of their cities or something like that. That he has a grudge on for these people. And now he's talking about Colombia. I don't know what he's like. Apparently, he wants to go to war with all of South America for some reason. He seems to think that's what I'm saying about Trump is he doesn't really know anything. He thinks that fentanyl is coming from South America. It's like fentanyl doesn't come from South America. Fentanyl comes from China and Mexico. They have labs there where they make fentanyl. They don't make fentanyl in South America. And these boats are blowing up. These boats that they're blowing up don't have enough fuel capacity to get to the United States. They would have to refuel 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times before they get to the United States. So these boats were never headed to the United States. I don't know where they were headed, but they weren't headed to the United States because they would run out of fucking gas. They're not going to make it. Unless they're going to meet some submarine, off the coast of they haven't said that either. They haven't said anything about what they're doing. Only that these are drug boats and we destroyed them, and it's already been proven. It's like Colombia president. That's why he's mad at the Colombian president, because the Colombian president said, "You just killed a bunch of fishermen." And of course, Trump, he's got to keep his lies. See, this is the problem with this whole scenario. Is when you tell a lie in your life, right? Now you have to lie again because of the lie you told. And then because of that lie, you have to lie again, right? And then you have to keep lying to cover up the lie that you told originally, and it just compounds itself and on top of it until it all collapses on you because you can't keep up this bullshit game. Well, the whole administration, which means the United States of America itself, is now built upon a ridiculous foundation, a philosophy that's lies. And so Trump lies, and he has to lie again, and he has to lie again, and then he does something like you said, he's killing some fishermen and calling them drug dealers, and so he's got to keep lying. And now he's like, I gotta attack Venezuela on the land because this is something. It's all fevered, ridiculous bullshit. It's based upon bullshit. That's why he keep telling you, cities are burning down and there's riots, and you look at the film and it's like, no one's rioting, bro. There's a bunch of people in frog costumes and shit. They're not. Portland isn't burning down. People right now are going, they ran a marathon there 2 weeks ago. People are now going to Portland Trailblazers games because the NBA season's on. It's life is just moving as normal in Portland, and it's not on fire. There's not a war zone. It's not riots in the streets. But he's got to keep saying this because that's his whole rationale for doing the things he's doing. And it's not real. We're less than a year into this situation. Eventually this is all going to collapse upon itself because it's bullshit. All of it. And he's lied so much that you can't believe anything they say. Now, I believe this NBA story to be true because it's not political. It's just an FBI investigation that somehow, I guess, through investigating the mafia, they came across this scene. But have you noticed this, for example? After Charlie Kirk was murdered, there was all this. Cash Patel was like, he's got a trans roommate, and it trans this and that, and it's trans. And then you notice that you haven't heard anything else about that because it was a bullshit story to begin with. They tried to turn something into a political scenario where they could use it, and that's all they have anymore. Are these, like I said before, is their most of their philosophies are based upon cultural. Like today, I don't know if you know about what's going on in Argentina, but the president of Argentina, Trump loves him, right? Because he's a right wing populist like them. And so they helped. I mean, I don't know if they helped, but somehow he got elected, and he's been attached to the MAGA movement ever since because they look for allies who have their same dumb fuck philosophy and around the world, so they can say that they have some friends, even though because most of the regular countries don't like Donald Trump. They think he's a fucking jerk off because he is. So he's got to befriend these other jerk offs in the world, so he can, validate himself somehow. So anyway, so he says, and I swear to God, Trump says, this guy's got to stay in power because he's got a good philosophy. It's like, really? If his philosophy is so good, why is the economy collapsing and we got to bail him out? Because, like I said before, their entire philosophy is culturally based. There's nothing political about it. There's no governance involved in it. It's all grievances and we don't like trans people and immigrants are ruining the world and this and that and the other. But there aren't any real ideas about what to do about anything. It's like this healthcare thing, right? The government shut down because ACA subsidies that keep insurance premiums down for lower income people are about to expire, and the rates of health coverage will go skyrocket so high that people can't afford them, right? So the Democrats are like, we have to continue these ACA subsidies so that these people can stay on their fucking health care plan. And they say, no, you can't do that. But do they offer an alternative idea of what to do to help these people? No, they don't. Why is that? Because they don't fucking have one. Remember when people asked Trump if he had a health care plan and he said, we got concepts of a plan. Well, concepts of a plan aren't really a fucking plan, are they? It's... And what are these concepts? I never even hear him bring that up because all they ever talk about is trans people in sports and immigrants this and immigrants that, and they don't have any real ideas, and they never have. They've wanted to get rid of Obamacare ever since it was created, right? But have they ever one time sat down and created a plan of their own to say, well, we want to replace Obamacare, and here's our idea of what to do with it? No. Because all they know what to do is be against things, because that gets people fired up. It triggers people's emotions. And there's no real thinking involved in any of it. And that's the real problem, is modern conservatism has been hijacked by this movement that is all about cultural grievances. And, cultural grievances are all good and all. You want to have these discussions about how people should live or not live, but you can't govern a country based upon the fact that you don't like immigrants and trans people. You just can't. Meanwhile, inflation is back up to 3%, which is the highest it's been since the pandemic. Or post-pandemic, during the pandemic, inflation skyrocketed all over the world because the economies were all shut down, and the governments of all these countries had to subsidize their citizens so they could survive without working, and so inflation skyrocketed, right? And they tried to blame it, it was only Joe Biden, and they're like, no. It's a worldwide problem, because the whole world went through the whole scenario of shutdowns and I said people not working, and I said governments having to bail out the people by sending them checks so they could fucking eat food, etc., etc. You notice how during the pandemic we became socialist all of a sudden. And the world didn't end, did it? Right? Everyone got their little checks, the COVID checks. Some people got, and I personally know people who cheated the system. Everyone, because like I said, when they go, oh, it's a waste of fraud, they all did it too. The rich people did it. They took the subsidies that people gave and said, oh, my business can't operate, so I need to get. Well, I didn't either. Somebody was telling me, it was like, you're a comedian. You could apply for, I could have applied for the COVID subsidy. I could have gotten a business subsidy, and I could have gotten, $25,000 or I don't know how much they were giving out, because I could have claimed that I lost income from doing comedy. But at that time, I wasn't really making a lot of money doing comedy. I know people who are open mic hosts. Like, the guy hosts an open mic once a week for $50, and then he put in to the government that, oh, I'm losing my income because, and they got like 25 grand because they lied, basically. And now they have to live in fear that, for the rest of their life, that the government could pop up on their door at any time and ask them what's going on with the $25,000 that they fucking took. And, and I didn't want that hassle. Plus, I'm just not really a criminal in that regard, or I should say a fraudster, because I've done my share of crime in my life. Hustling, we call it, it's against the law to sell weed or whatever, but you do what you got to do to get by and make some money. That kind of thing is fraud, and I was never really a fraudster. Right, exactly. Questel says she knew a lot of people who got the checks. They just used them to go run around in Florida. Yeah, exactly. I go to a state that wasn't shut down, There you go. Hey, I got all this money. Wow! It's like, meanwhile, that money was supposed to be to help you survive, but they just partied, That's like, which goes back to the premise that I was already talking about. It's like human beings are shitbags. They're not good. And when you present them with things that they can fucking take advantage of, they take advantage of. I told you before, if you watch this show a lot, I was in a car accident once, and all the other people in the car, they wanted to run an insurance fraud. They wanted to say, tell them that your neck hurts and we'll get money, and you're like, yeah, but we're in a fucking rock band, and you're going to tell them, oh, we can't. My neck hurts and I can't do anything, so I need money. And then you're up on stage like, it's like it doesn't. People don't think that far ahead. Usually they just see an opportunity, and that's why they get caught. Like these NBA players. I'm sure that they're getting paid to be the face of this thing that sucked people in to get robbed by the mafia. And the mafia is probably giving them kickbacks and giving them hookers or whatever they needed to motivate them, I would say. They're going to give it to you because that's what the mafia does. They find your weakness and they exploit it, And so Chauncey Billups likes, women, some beautiful women, and they're like, here's a bunch of beautiful women, and you can fuck them all day. All you got to do is be the front of our fake poker game. And then he goes, oh, I don't really need the money, but I like this pussy, so I'm going to do it. It's like, and now he's in jail. Well, he's probably not in jail because he has the money to bail himself out, but I'm saying now he's under indictment, federal indictment for fucking racketeering and, illegal gambling and all this other shit. Meanwhile, you're Chauncey Billups, bro, and you got millions of dollars and you're a Hall of Fame basketball player. You know what? You could probably just get some pussy. Yourself. You don't really need Chauncey Billups is go on Tinder and be like, hey, is that Chauncey Billups? Yes. So she go, yeah, I want to fuck him. It's like, shit, it's free. And you're not going to get arrested. It's like, but people don't seem to step back from, and look at reality the way, people want the world to be the way they want it to be. They don't want to live in the real world. That's a big problem too. Like I said, Trump is a prime example of that. he has to invent this fevered dream of what he believes the world is, because he's too fucking stupid to understand the real world and how it works. Questel says reality is a TV show. Yeah. Well, I believe that reality television has blended, like I said, and social media and Instagram and TikTok has made it that way, where like real life has become a reality show, because most of the time people are trying to film their real life so they could put it into the digital space, so therefore they're not really even living in the real world, are they? They're trying to invent some kind of scenario that they can entertain somebody online. It's like I'm guilty of it. Like Instagram especially. It's like Instagram is mostly nowadays is just a bunch of fucking chicks in lingerie and shit. And they're laying around their house. Like, instead of, they don't have to go to strip clubs and shit anymore and work. They could just start an Instagram account and film themselves and take pictures of themselves in various, seductive things online, and thirsty dudes will look at it and click on it and like it and comment, and they make money off of it. So, but I always wonder, like, what's happening to these women in their minds. You know what I mean? Because now their real life has become, a fantasy. And I'm sure not all of them succumb to it, but it's got to be like a mind fuck. It's like I said, reality itself becomes secondary to titillating dudes online or whatever it is they're doing, and so you lose focus of what real life is. And plus, you're getting a lot of money, so you don't have to worry about real things anymore because you got money. It's a cascading scenario where you lose touch with yourself and who you really are and what life really is or should be about. It's the simplification of everything, and like I said, it turns everything into instant gratification, which is not a good recipe for long-term success or mental health. That's why people, you would think with social media and everything that people would be closer than ever, but it's not true. People are more lonely than ever before. People are isolated. People live in these little bubbles where they're seeking approval from people that they never will meet in real life. And therefore you don't get... Human beings are social animals. You need real life interaction. You need... Yes, and everybody's angry. There's all these incels that can't get laid, because they're sucked into this digital hole where, and so they're fantasizing about, I wrote a song about it. I was telling on the show before, like, guy's in love with a chatbot. Guy's married and has kids. He's in love with a chatbot, when he has a real wife in the other room that he could talk to, but he's in love with the chatbot. Why? Because the chatbot doesn't tell him that he needs to mow the lawn or do the dishes or things he doesn't like. The chatbot just reinforces, I'm sure, whatever he wants to hear, and it doesn't confront him with real life or his shortcomings, or it's like he doesn't tell him. It's, they said that you need to get up and fucking, like I said, take care of the kids, or they said do the laundry or whatever, and things he doesn't want to hear from his wife. So therefore he starts talking to a chatbot, and then and before you know it, he's stuck in this thing where the chatbot is feeding him what he wants to hear, and now he's no longer living in reality. He's living in like I said, a digitally manipulated bubble, and it's only going to get worse because these chatbots and things, they're just in their very first form. They're not nearly as sophisticated as they're going to be. Soon, guys will be able to buy like a fully automated robot that, yeah, somebody still has to clean the house, but I'm saying That's not true, because a guy like that, he'd probably sit around and his house would just become a filth around him, and it doesn't matter because he's hypnotized by this thing. And like I said, the day will come when you can buy a fully automated robot of a woman who looks like you want them to look, and then they can program it with the personality that you want them to have, and you won't need people anymore. It's like when they were talking about virtual reality. Virtual reality is so great. It's like, yeah, is it? But it's really the Matrix. I can't remember the robot in the Jetsons' name. The maid? Yeah. But see, she was like all bolty looking, metal. And these robots will look like women. Probably have pocket pussies built into them so you can fuck them. You know, like, so the fantasy will be complete. Like, you'll have an android wife who does whatever you want her to do. You can program her to be the way you want her to be. If you want her to like sports, she'll like sports. If you want her to, you know, or whatever. And you don't have to go through the trouble of actually finding a human being who fulfills your needs, because you fulfill your own needs through the programming of the, you know, the artificial. As I said, it's like virtual reality. They used to say, virtual reality is so great. It's like, yeah, it's cool. But what is it? Right? You're sitting around your house with these goggles on and living in a fancy. You're like in the Matrix, bro. Like, you might as well just put yourself in a pod and turn the thing on and like stop living at all. You know, just put an IV in and they'll feed you, and you could create your own reality and live in the world that you want to live in. But is it real? No. That's why it's called virtual reality, because it's not real. The technology is just going to get worse and worse. And I said, most people are too stupid to understand the depths, psychological depths of all of the scenarios that you're talking about here. You know, like, and so they just get sucked in like a black hole. You know, like I said, the guy will be living alone with no human beings in his life, and living with this automated robot wife that does everything he wants and says what he wants and likes what he wants, and it's a false reality. It's not real. You know, that's the real issue with the problem. It's a severe mind fuck. You know. But like I said, you're getting all the things that you want, or you think you are, through this artificial means. But it's artificial. You know, but if somebody can just come in and flip a switch and turn it all off, it's not real. I mean, turn it all off, and what are you? You're the same fucking loser that you were before you fucking strapped on the goggles, bro. It's like, you gotta live life. That's why I said, it was like, Daniele was here earlier. Like I said, Daniele's my friend. His daughter is going to be somebody. You know, she's going to be a musician, probably pretty successful, and she's a very good singer. I've worked with famous people. I know famous people. I've not always been this guy that's sitting in a basement doing a podcast. I'm here because of circumstance, but everything I've done in my life is real. It's not based upon, you know, some bullshit that I'm telling you. I could tell you and show you that I've done these things. You know, like I have an album on iTunes and YouTube Music, and like I put out my own stuff. I was fully self-supporting artist who lived off of artists. Streaming is legit, Costello. I'm not saying it isn't. I mean, I'm doing it right now, but the reality of the situation is that it's still not real. I mean, this is real as you can get in the digital space, but I'm saying, I'm sitting here talking into this camera, some people are watching. Oh, you have my old DVD. You know, I'll sign it for you. It feels weird because you guys are like my family. You know, like, it's like I'm just, you know me, I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy. You know, that's the other part of it. Is like I've never fell into this scenario where I started thinking that I was greater than just a guy because of all these things I've done. I've done all these things because they're what I'm interested in and it's what I want to do. And I'm an artist and I like to express my point of view. It's just fundamentally a part of who I am. But I've never, ever, ever once bought into the egotistical trip that makes me better than you who are watching me on this show. You know, like if we were to meet, I would hang out with you and have a beer. I've never been this guy that's like put the fucking wall up and I'm gonna sit in the green room and not talk to the peasants. You know, it's like I'm a peasant. No matter what kind of a success I would achieve or money I would get, I always came from I'm just like you. I came from nothing. Anything I have in my life, I achieved it myself. No one gave me anything. I got in it. Everything I've ever done, I did through hard work and determination. You see, a lot of these people are born and come from privileged backgrounds. They're sons of Hollywood people and things like that. And so they already have this super inflated sense of ego. I never bought into the ego thing. I don't think that it's necessary. If you're a talented person, it doesn't make you, superior to other people. If you're more intelligent than other people, it doesn't make you superior to them. Most people are just people. And I don't know. I've always just been a people person. I want what's best for everybody. I don't consider myself like standing on a pedestal and looking down at people. I like to feel like I'm in the crowd watching what's happening, and then my art is a reflection of what I see. It doesn't make me better or superior to anybody. And a lot of people who do art and musicians, comedians, actors, they buy into this thing that they're better than other people. Yes, Questella, you can be smart about one thing and stupid about another. Yes, Vincent would say to stay in your lane. Yes. But it's like I have many lanes, but I stay in them. Okay, I'm gonna do music, I'm gonna do comedy. It's like I'm gonna do, maybe I do a little acting here and there. That's why I said I hope Daniele gets this TV show so I can finally mark that off the fucking box. It's like, hey, look, I made it to television. Took me 50 years, but I made it. Like that's like. Where are you? Hey, I look real close. I'm the bartender in scene 3. That's like, because I've never taken acting classes, or I don't really know a lot about it. But Daniele heard my album and he was like, "Well, you can act good enough." It's like, I don't know. My comedy act's not really an act. It's just me telling you what I think about shit. Anyway, if you don't know, my album is called Cancel Culture. It's available on, I said, YouTube Music. It's on iTunes. It's on everything except Spotify. For some reason, there was some kind of snafu when it was uploaded by the service about Spotify was having a fight with comedians and they had froze all their spoken word content. So when I uploaded my album, it went to iTunes, but it was blacked off. So you could see it, but it didn't play. And then for some reason, it never played it. There's a whole list of the streaming services that it is on, and it's on a bunch of them. But that's it, but not Spotify for whatever reason. And I haven't called them, and that's the thing is that's always been my downfall. I'm not good at the business part. I need an agent or some kind of business person who does those things for me because I should be on satellite radio. I don't know how to do it. I've looked online, tried to figure out how do I submit my stuff. And then I see somebody I knew like, oh, they're on Raw Dog Radio now. You're like, well, how'd you fucking get on there? Because I should have been on there a long time ago on XM satellite radio or whatever, but I don't know how to fucking submit my shit to put it on there. I need a manager, a person who really... So if you're a manager and you're out there... You're looking for a client. It's like, I do stand up. I'm in a band. I can do a lot of things. It's like, I just don't know how to sell it, Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. I've been on for over an hour. I want to thank Daniele Bolelli again for coming. If you don't know who Daniele Bolelli is, please look up History on Fire. Listen to his podcast. It's very entertaining. It's like a history lecture, but he makes it fun. And you can learn a bunch of shit. The man is a very intelligent man. I'm lucky for him to be my friend, and that he drops by this show every now and then. But anyway, I'm going to get out of here. I think I'm going to go downtown to this Halloween thing tonight. Because again, like I said, you can't just live in this fucking stew of what's going on now. Like, even though we're living in a dystopian hellscape time, you can't let that consume you. You got to still try to enjoy the little things in life, like we were talking about earlier. That's what makes life worth living, and don't lose sight of that. I am Bruce Leonard. I will be back on Tuesday at 6 o'clock. And if you're new to this show, I do it Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern. And Daniele is here on Saturdays sometimes. So please come back, tell your friends, hit the like button, like I said, because that helps the algorithm. And I'll be back Tuesday at 6 o'clock. I am Bruce Leonard. This is Bruce Leonard Leans Left. Well, it's still legal. And as long as it's legal, I'll be here. Good night.